Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, the president says he's open to bringing back Dengvaxia.
I'd rather go on the side of science. Kasi ang anak mo, siya the vaccination.
Is that a yes?
I am open to the use of Dengvaxia again.
Following the declaration of a national dengue epidemic.
It is important that a national epidemic be declared in this area to identify where a localized response is needed.
Also, is the Philippines ready for a divorce law?
Happy naman ako to listen to any and all concerns. I'm just happy that it's being discussed.
A paperless Senate and the death penalty revival.
I respectfully request Congress to reinstate the death penalty for heinous crimes related to drugs as well as plunder.
Senator Pia Cayetano joins us live. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. President Rodrigo Duterte says he is open to bringing back a controversial vaccine amid the dengue epidemic. However, Mr. Duterte clarifies that he needs the assurance of local health experts first before giving the go signal to use Dengvaxia again. Also, the Senate debates heat up on controversial bills. Is the Philippines ready for an absolute divorce law? And will the Duterte administration succeed in reimposing the death penalty? Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have the new chairman of the Senate Ways and Means Committee, Chairperson Pia Cayetano. Senator, good to have you again. Thank you for your time.
I'm happy to be here.
You know, they say Senate Ways and Means Committee, sabi ni Senate President Tito Soto, you finally made his job easier by accepting the job of the chairman of the Senate Ways and Means Committee. But I'm going to go to that a little later on. First, I want to talk about Dengvaxia. Okay. We have 150,000 cases, more or less from January to July of this year, 600 deaths. How is the government addressing the problem? Are you satisfied? Is there something that needs to be done or to be improved?
Well, we had a hearing in the Senate Committee on Health just the other day, and they briefed us, and basically the position that I want to take, and it's my humble advice to politicians, huwag na kayo magbigay ng advice nyo. Because this is a technical matter, this is a scientific matter, so whether to how to approach it on the Dengvaxia vaccine should be left to the experts. So I agree with the President. Let's listen to our local health experts. So sana po yung mga politicians, we just discuss policies, right? So what's our policy? Our policy is we want to ensure the safety of the Filipino people, right? We want to ensure that they have access to vaccinations or any, so the poor should also have access to whatever is available to the rich, di ba? So yun ang policies namin. And one other thing I want to emphasize, which is never emphasized, it's a virus, and like any other infection, and I don't have any health degree, okay, liwanagin natin yan, ha? But your general well-being will help you fight any infection, any disease, any virus, any bacteria. We forget that. So, actually, yung mga malalakas ang katawan, mas matindi ang panlaban nila. So let's remember that we go back to the health basics. Those should be the concerns that we have. Like, what is the access? Because when you're malnourished, when you do not have the proper vaccinations, etc., then you are susceptible to these kinds of diseases. So that's part of our job, the budget, to ensure that the poorest of the poor are covered, that these children who are still we have stunted growth, no, in particular areas of the country. We should address this because this will help them also fight Dengvaxia.
But why do you say that when, just a suggestion to local officials to really how I understand, don't delve into Dengvaxia because we don't know much about it. We're not experts on that field.
Yes, exactly.
Because why? Nagkakalituhan ba kung mabuti o hindi ang Dengvaxia? Is that how you feel right now?
Remember, Pinky, you had me as your guest sometime during election, and I was telling you that I go around the country explaining to mothers the importance of vaccination because we had an outbreak of measles because suddenly all these mothers were thinking that because of the news that they hear on the radio, mostly on TV, about the effects of Dengvaxia,
right,
then suddenly for them, all the vaccinations were bad.
Correct.
So they stopped sending their kids to measles. And I'm crossing my fingers because I hope that we don't have an outbreak in any other sickness, because those who missed their vaccination, it wasn't just for measles. It was for a lot of other diseases which are practically eradicated already.
Yeah, because what happened was, natakot ang tao, simply, natakot ang tao, ayaw na nila magpabakuna kasi feeling
Sa lahat
nila...
ng bakuna.
Sa lahat ng bakuna.
Oo.
In fact, that's why there was a call for help sa DOH. Kakaupo lang ata ni Secretary Duque nung time na yon at sinasabi niya, he raised the alarm. Masyado nang mababa bakuna sa mga
it went
kababayan
down.
natin.
Right.
But at least, umakyat na ulit.
But you know why
Bumalik.
it went up? It didn't go up because of the wonderful things that those of us in the health sector and health advocates like me did. Because the BHWs were telling me, ma'am, no matter what we do, they don't want to go back. They started going back because the babies were dying. Their children were dying. So then they probably, in the minds of a mother, if that were me, like, wait, I'm afraid of the vaccine. But wait, now there are kids dying because they didn't
What
get
do we do?
vaccinated.
Yeah.
Okay, and then meanwhile, nandun naman yung push ng health officials. Okay, let's just get vaccinated.
Yeah.
So they went there because in their face, children were dying from measles na.
It's almost as if it's a desperate move, no?
Yeah. So what I did mention in the committee hearing, I reminded the health officials there is, you know, in this day and age, you can't just have this boring advisory, mga nanay, pabakunan niyo yung mga anak niyo. In this day and age where there's colors and multimedia coming in our faces, it has to be dynamic. Visuals,
Yeah.
you know, not this boring PR. Sorry. Pero, you know, it has to be exciting to tell these mothers na ito yung kailangan mangyari.
You
These are
need to
the
entice them, no?
repercussions,
Yeah.
graphic.
Yeah.
For,
And
for
how
the
did they
message
respond to
sink
that?
in. Well, they were nodding naman, and I reminded them that was one of my laws that we passed on sin tax, or we'll get to later on. Because the purpose of those sin taxes is to really fund health promotions. Kasama yon.
Prevention.
Yes.
Yeah.
And promotions,
Yeah.
meaning to say, magpa-advertise ka, sumayaw ka, whatever you need to do, i-promote mo yung health
Make it
advocacy.
attractive for everyone.
Exactly.
Para manood kami, manood
Yes.
tayo. Alam naman natin yung span, yung
Yes.
attention span ng tao, napaka-iksi nga. So, given that, natakot ang tao, marami. The health department is saying we're looking at studying the return of Dengvaxia. Give us about 10 to 14 days. President Rodrigo Duterte even
Said.
saying he's ready. Pero wait, let me talk to the medical
Health
practitioners,
experts.
health
Tama
experts.
yan.
He says, are you open to bringing
Yes,
it back?
of course. Because I'm not a health expert. Wala akong karapatan to say, and please lang, kaya nga panawagan ko sa mga kasama ko, hindi po tayo health experts. Now, if we read something, then let's report it as factually as we know it. Because in fact, I would prefer to refrain. Let's let the health experts talk. So when I was going around the country and I was being interviewed by mga radio commentators, I would say the same thing.
Yeah.
Sana po, wag na ho tayo mag-comment, pabayaan na natin yung health experts kasi litong-lito na yung mga tao eh.
But ganito ho yun, here's the problem that I see. You're a senator of the Republic and someone, the public could possibly look up to you. Hopefully, kasi someone like you studied,
Yes.
spoke to health experts, and
Yes.
the health experts gave their advice to you. At ikaw din ang magsasabi sa amin. May ganun din kasing
Agree naman ako doon. Nagpapakumbaba lang naman ako dahil I'm one of many politicians and thank you for pointing that out, that they will listen. But I'd rather right now, when the President said he's listening to the health experts, and let's give this time for it to be the health experts. Bring them there, let them talk about it,
Yeah.
diba? Kasi I can already start to use studies, but I do have studies that have different opinions. So wag na lang, diba? Let's let them
Mahirap rin
do the
manggaling sa iyo
talking.
kung hindi naman ikaw ang expert dito. But time is of
The essence.
is of the essence here. Is 10 to 14 days good enough? Paano ho ba? How to address this issue? If ibalik ang Dengvaxia or not?
For me, definitely that's good enough because I've heard the health experts themselves talk about it, no? I mean, I know for a fact that PGH they created like a task force and
Correct.
they came up with their findings, So that's there, that's out there. You can Google that and that's there. So
And the findings, just to be clear about it, of the PGH experts were, it wasn't the cause really. It wasn't conclusive, I think,
Yes.
na hindi yun ang cause of death ng mga
cause
bata.
of death ng mga bata na
Naturukan ng Dengvaxia.
naturukan. Yun talaga yung findings ng PGH.
Alright.
But then may findings din, diniscuss na rin natin, may findings din yung mga health experts that the Dengvaxia vaccine is most effective, or the effectivity is when you've already been exposed. May ganun din yun.
It's not
So,
good for those who
have
have not
never been exposed. So I
exposed.
recall, it was said that it is best, or I don't know if it should be exclusively. This is where I shouldn't be quoted because I am not the expert. But obviously, it should be directed towards those areas where they have recurring epidemics, because the chances of somebody already being infected is there.
Just to end that topic before we go on a break, I think it was also Congressman Janet Garin who said that, well, of course, that could be controversial because she was the DOH secretary back then. Kailangan din natin tingnan yung prevention.
Of course.
Yun ang importante.
And that's why I mentioned that we go back to the health.
Correct.
The health of the children and the health of the most vulnerable, because if they're not healthy, then they don't have anything when the virus hits you. So I had a very interestingly, Pinky, many years ago when HIV, first came to our, 2 decades ago, I was in an international conference and I was told that, when you're strong, you also have that ability to fight the HIV virus. And in my mind, again, because I'm not a health expert, I was like, oh, okay, I thought if you get exposure, you're gonna die.
Whether you're healthy or not.
No, but if you're healthy, may panglaban ka nga, like any other sickness.
All right, we'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Coming up, is the Philippines ready for a divorce law? And we're gonna talk about a possible, is it gonna be paperless Senate or paper-reduced Senate? We'll be taking a short break. We'll be right back. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Senate Ways and Means Committee Chairperson Pia Cayetano, Senator in the 17th Congress. The divorce law passed.
The House.
At the House. You were a congresswoman back then. Sa Senate, hindi ho siya pumasa. You refiled this.
Sa Senate, hindi man lang na-discuss.
Basta hindi siya natuloy at all sa Senado. It was stopped there. So now you refiled this. But I remember during the 17th Congress, because it is a controversial bill, sinasabi mo that you had to find some sort of a middle ground. Ano ba yung middle ground sa divorce law?
Yeah. Well, it's just that I've met a lot of people, including colleagues, so these are decision makers in terms of passing a law, right, who don't have a problem per se with allowing a couple to end their marriage. They have a problem with the term divorce because of their religious beliefs. And dami, you'll hear that often. I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't heard a very Catholic person say, okay naman sa akin, wag lang itawag na divorce. So yun yung ibig ko sabihin ng compromise. It's what you call it. So the version that was passed in the House of Representatives is called divorce or dissolution of marriage. And when I was asked, what's the difference? Sabi ko, well, be my guest. You can read it, because we didn't distinguish which one would be considered a divorce and which one is considered a dissolution of marriage.
So it was called dissolution of marriage in the 17th Congress.
No, it was called, the title is actually divorce or dissolution of marriage.
Okay.
So you choose your title.
Ngayon, what title did you file?
I think I just filed the same thing, because my objective when I filed it was, you know what, because I can I like this work. I can overthink it. And I said, to keep it simple, just for the purpose of filing, I'll just file the House version.
Okay. So
but I do have ideas on still how to further improve it.
So, ganito yon. So, tinatawag niyo siyang divorce or dissolution of marriage because I guess just to take out the controversial part of it?
Yes.
Okay. So,
And that's not my idea, because I want to call a spade a spade. If it's an apple,
so
call
you
it an
call
apple.
It divorce?
And that's what it is.
Yeah. Isn't
it is. That's what it is. Because I believe in separation of church and state. And I always repeat, with all due respect to anyone who's religious, anyone who has their particular beliefs on divorce in their churches, I respect that. I also have my own spiritual beliefs. I'm also a Christian. And the fact remains, though, that it is my job as a lawmaker to pass laws that can be availed of by any Filipino. So if you want to avail of divorce, go ahead. This is not the kind of law that is mandatory. I'm not imposing it on everyone. It's a matter of if your particular circumstances, bugbog sarado ka, may kasama ng iba yung asawa mo, kinalimutan ka na, edi, you have that, the law now allows you to find a legal remedy. Inabandon ka. Kasi, would you believe now, under our present law, abandonment, that's not even a ground to separate from you. It's just a ground for legal separation. But you're still married to this person who abandoned you.
Right.
Or who might even be living in with somebody else and have 3 other kids.
So, if people were to ask you, Senator, ano ho ba ang pagkakaiba ng divorce at dissolution of marriage? Paano niyo ho sasagutin yun?
Ako hindi ko kayang sagutin yun dahil hindi ako ang gumawa nun. I leave that up to my colleagues who want to
call it
who want to call
dissolution
it that, to decide on how how to define each one if there is a difference.
Senator, what's the sentiment you're getting with your co-senators? Because I think it's Senator Joel Villanueva who's very much against this. Senator Bongo was saying, kailangan pag-aralan, just to kind of quote what he said or rephrase it, kailangan pag-aralan ng mabuti, hindi parang ura-urada. Let's not make it very easy. I guess the flip side to this is, baka konting away, ayoko na sa'yo, ay biglang magkaroon ng divorce. Siguro that's the flip side na kinatatakutan ng ilan.
That is always what I hear, especially from a lot of well-meaning people, no? From a lot of people I respect. Of course, we don't want, especially the younger generation, to think that nag-away lang kayo ng konti, nagkatampuhan lang, divorce agad. Yeah, that is the fear, and I acknowledge that. And I know that's where those statements come from, na pag-aralan lang, wag lang gawing sobrang madali. But the thing is this, when you say wag lang gawing sobrang madali, and you've heard the stories I've heard, not just from kwentuhan with friends, but yung talagang kinarir ko, kasi karir ko nga to, no? We went to Malaysia, we went to Hong Kong, and we went to Japan to hear our OFWs, in addition to all the Filipinos who were welcome to come to our hearings, the letters I received, the Facebook messages. Mag-post ako ng kahit ano sa
nakikita
Facebook.
ko yun sa Facebook.
Biglang
Yeah.
sisingit nun, Ma'am Pia, yung divorce ho natin, laging nandyan yan. Anyone I talk to will have their own story to tell about why they want to move on. And we can judge them, we can say you didn't try hard enough. What's trying hard enough? Waiting for 5 years, waiting for 10 years, waiting for 20, you know what I mean? So I understand na wag naman gawing madali na isang pirma hiwalay na tayo. I get
Tapos
that.
na, oo.
I get that. But at the same time, we need to acknowledge the reality that people do have a right to move on, especially if the other person is no longer committed. I mean, we do want that sense of try harder, you know, like may cooling, the law even has a cooling off period under our existing family code. And I want to impose something like that. So, precisely to prevent na, you know, pag may nag-away nga, diba? O di maghiwalay na tayo. Okay, maghiwalay na tayo. Pumirma
Divorce
ka na.
to divorce.
So, I'd like the
Yeah.
law to step in and say, cool it, you know, give you time, because it's normal to have this kind of difficulties, but
Yeah.
let's not jump into divorce. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't want to be the face of divorce, you know. I'm the face of keeping a family together and the well-being of people. That's the only reason why I'm promoting that we ensure that people have access.
I think it's clear when you said that you do not want to be the face of divorce, but you
No.
want to be the face of what?
Well-being of the Filipino people.
Yeah, you know, I was looking through your Facebook account na when you were talking about divorce, tapos maraming mga stories talaga na kinukwento sila na inabandon na ako, OFW ako, etc. etc.
Yung OFW na umiyak siya talagang mga 20 minutos, pinabayaan na lang namin siya mag-testify doon. Parang mga 15 years old pa lang siya, pinalivin na siya ng nanay niya doon. Tapos siya bumubuhay sa asawa niyang inom ng inom. And then habang lumalaki yung mga anak niya, siya pa rin bumubuhay. She decided to go to abroad to earn more money. May kinasama na ibang babae, nanganak na ibang babae, siya pa rin nagsusustento. And you know why these women don't leave? Because in their heart, I am legally and morally bound to this man. Yeah, her kids were telling her, Nay, makipaghiwalay ka na. Her kids were there, grown na sila. Siguro mga 20s sila, yung nanay, mga 50. Parang for niya, kaya nga inaantay ko kasi para maiwan ko na.
What chances in the Senate, though?
I think, like always, like our age, you know, me, positive, fight lang. I don't really count.
Sige, positive but realistic. Do you have the support of half?
Yeah. You know what? Even with our age, believe it or not, I never counted. What I need to know, though, is that I have a body that is open-minded to hearing this discussion. Because as long as there are a few people open-minded, then I want them to hear the stories. Yun naman lang ang pakiusap ko sa lahat eh. Kasi in the same way, you know, you're gonna ask me about certain bills that I'm not necessarily a fan of, but it's my job to keep an open mind. That's my job. So, yun lang pakiusap ko.
Which we need to go to because you're the chairperson of the, well, let's just call it the tax committee na medyo allergic yung ibang tao dito.
Ways and means. Kaya nga ways and means
Oo
kasi
nga.
we find ways to provide for the
Means.
services of the Filipino people.
Oo.
That's why I accepted the job. Unahin na kita sa tanong.
Hindi kasi, di ba?
Kasi sabi mo nga, di ba, ikaw nagsabi na the Senate President said nga that,
Masaya siya, pinadali mo daw ang kanyang trabaho.
because nga walang kukuha ng committee na yon. Paano naman naandar yung bansa natin kung wala naman tayong
Because
income?
unpopular ang taxes. So here's the Finance Department saying that they want to do, well, number one, a second round of taxes on alcohol and cigarettes. Where are you? Have you heard this? And,
Yeah, of course.
No, I mean sa hearing. Nag-umpisa na ba kayo sa hearing about this?
No, we haven't had hearings yet because we're still finalizing the committees in the Senate. Yeah, so just on a totally side note, my brother being Speaker of the House, you know, I heard a few comments like, oh, hindi pa sila organized. Kami nga rin sa Senate, 24 lang kami, hindi pa kami tapos mag-organize eh. Hindi pa kami tapos. I mean, it's a process,
Okay.
no? So, but I am hoping to have a hearing, I think, next week na. But that doesn't prevent us from working.
Yeah. What are you working on sa Ways and Means now?
Yeah, so I've been having briefings with the DOE. It's technical.
Yeah.
I'm not a tax. I mean, I haven't chaired the committee before. I'm not an accountant. I am a lawyer. So I've studied this. So now I'm studying it in depth. And hopefully I get deeper and deeper. So I've been doing that with the Department of Finance and starting to receive position papers. We're starting to read it. So in case some sectors are watching there, you can send your position papers. Don't have to wait for us to ask for it. Feel free to. But I haven't been sitting down with them yet because I still need to get the full picture from DOF before I start sitting down with different groups. And you will all be invited to the hearing.
You really study this. You want to come out, you know.
Of
At least,
course.
you don't really have to be intelligent, but you have to be knowledgeable.
You have to be intelligent naman.
Hindi naman really intelligent. Ibig ko sabihin, kailangan nag-aaral ka.
Yes,
That is what I mean, di ba?
Your point being is, aralin mo, matututunan mo naman
Oo,
yan.
kahit na
Oo.
hindi ka expert doon.
Exactly.
All right. It's important also to talk about this. It's a paperless Senate. Bakit? Because the senator apparently espoused this way back.
In
diba?
2010.
2010. At meron din siyang binigay na regalo sa mga kapwa senador niya. We'll be talking about that after the break. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Senate Ways and Means Committee Chairperson Pia Cayetano. She's an environmentalist. Hence, in 2010, apparently, you were already saying that, you know, let's reduce our use of paper. Tatago ko nga to. So, in the Senate, you're going to see this photo, which is very telling. So, ibinabalik naman to ni Senator. Sir, Senator, how do you plan to do this? Dahil nga sa dami. Tell us, gaano ba kadaming papel ang na-generate nyo or ng staff niyo or ng opisina ng Senado?
Well, konting background. I chaired the committee on the Committee on Environment, and we have an oversight committee on solid waste. So because of that, I was very conscious of this, and I said we should start in our own institution. So at that time, this is way back in 2010. I got Mother Earth to partner with us, and you have to do training office to office because the segregation has to start in the offices. And we also did this in Taguig, and right now, up to now, no, it's been how many years? I guess 9 years, because around that time when my brother Lino was barangay captain, to this day, pinupuntahan siya sa Lakbay-Aral. So we reduced the garbage of the Senate in half.
Really?
Yes, and that was in 2010. So syempre nawala nga ako lately.
Nung umalis ka,
so binabalik
bumalik?
ko. Hindi naman. No naman. But
Okay.
I did ask the Secretariat for a report because the what do you call this? The pickup of the garbage truck used to be once a week. It became every other week. So I'd like to think over time, mas bumagal sana if we keep on improving, right? I mean, we do generate a lot of papers because old school, you know, even I like to write on my papers, but it's an effort. So that's why even then, my panawagan was to the best of our ability. Kasi I don't want to force them on people if that's their study habit, right?
Yeah.
So that's the same thing I said. Can we try to reduce? So I think it's a little bit difficult to be paper-free.
Yeah.
Realistically, it would really be reduced because we could really do that. But you need to now include technology there because your apps have to be user-friendly.
And you were saying you want an app for the Senate? Tama ba?
Yeah, because I'll tell you why. If you download the journal for the day, it has two rows. So when I read that on my laptop, nakakabaliw kasi gaganyan ka tapos babalik ka.
Yeah.
So it has to be user-friendly
Correct.
in that
it has to be
sense.
pleasing to the eyes.
Yeah. And then when you make your comments just like a Word document, I'm not naman saying spend millions of pesos for an app. No, of course not. There might even be some free one out there. But it has to be user-friendly so that when I'm reviewing, in the same way that I would make an annotation, di ba, like in your
can
Word
insert.
document,
Yeah.
you can click on it,
Ayun,
it says
tama.
comments. That's my point.
Okay, and then we're running out of time. So
Yeah, this
another
is
one
it.
is you gifted
Yeah.
your co-senators this because we need to reduce the use of single-use plastic.
Yeah,
Syempre,
the PET bottles. And again, I initiated that way back in around 2010. But I still had to be like a police. I'd be like, excuse me, may bote? Because it's habits di ba? It's good that we're now hydrating, but then people are carrying around this single-use plastic. So sabi ko, para hindi na sila mahirapan, binigyan ko na lang sila.
Lahat sila.
Oo.
Ginagamit ba nila?
Ginagamit naman. But I guess some of them bring it home. Kaya gusto ko sabihin,
Nakakalimutan,
so yung dalawa bigay ko. Para isa dito, isa pang uwi. Because me, it's always with me.
Dalawa na talaga ang ibigay mo para may isa. Para, especially sa session hall.
Yeah.
Dapat yan ang
Well,
tubig,
I've
di
seen
ba?
every day there's like a different group who brings it. Like one day it was Grace, another day it was Nancy, another day it was Manny. And I'm taking their picture
There.
so that they know that it's appreciated. Pero tingnan mo, may plastic pa din na nakadikit. So, kaya kailangan ko i-remind. Kailangan ko lang i-remind.
Ayan. So meron din kaming dalawa.
Yeah,
Kami ni Senator na dala our own.
Our own
Because,
contribution.
Yeah, of course, di ba? The little less things
Yes.
mean a lot. It's quite significant. So, work begins sa Senate Ways and Means Committee. I mean, formal work, hearings possibly
Hearings.
next week. So, we look
Yes.
forward to that, Senator.
Yeah.
Maraming salamat to you for your time and good luck.
Thank you. Thank
Especially
you.
sa Ways and Means.
Thank you.
Thank you to Senator Pia Cayetano. Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.